Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And today is a little bit more of an advanced tutorial, especially if you've never made macarons before. I definitely wouldn't start with this particular one, but if you've made macarons before, here is a cute decorating idea. My friend requested that I make these egg-shaped macarons for her sister's baby shower, who is also my friend, so I decided to go ahead and go with just kind of a classic white. We'll talk a little bit more about coloring later on in the video, but for this particular portion, I want to show you here. As I'm piping this, I realize that my batter is just slightly too thick, and if that happens to you, no worries. Get your spatula out and just scrape it off, and it comes off super clean. You don't even lose any of the batter. This is also why I love using these nonstick mats by Fat Daddy-O's. Now you might notice that the batter still isn't falling into itself where it's going nice and flat. We are going to smack these pans quite a bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and just kind of even things out a little bit. This is where the idea of creating shaped macarons can be a little bit tricky, because if your batter is too loose, you won't be able to get the right shape and things will be going everywhere. And the difficulty is really dependent upon the type of shape that you choose. For example, these eggs and lemons are actually a little bit more difficult, I would say, than making something that's a little bit more elaborate that has smaller pieces all combined to make the shape. Like if you were making a character, for example, you have to worry less about the actual texture of your macaron batter, but of course you're coloring way more things and it's a lot more detailed and takes a little bit more piping skill. But in terms of getting that batter correct, it's actually a little bit more tricky when it comes to a flat shape like this lemon and the egg, because you have to have enough hold in your batter to be able to hold that shape, but also make sure that it's nice and flat. For the round macarons like this, I did end up using the same batter consistency for this, but ordinarily if I'm just doing all round macarons, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a looser batter. Now remember, to get your batter looser, you just need to turn your batter more times and you need to really stir it. But if you want it thicker and you've gone too far and it's too loose, you won't be able to thicken it up. So make sure that you go nice and slow with that. If you've ever had failures with your macarons, one of the key pieces is making sure that you have a good mat to bake on. And this particular one here, it really kind of ripped my macarons apart. It was salvageable, but it did not give an even bake on the bottom. So even though all the rest of them turned out, the ones on that particular mat didn't. And I had just run out of using my other mats. That's why I had to resort to using that one. Now you can use any macaron recipe to create these shapes. I'm using a rest recipe, which means I did let these rest for about 30 to 45 minutes. Now let's go back to talking about the color. So ordinarily when I'm making white macarons, I've got to bring that temperature down at least 10 degrees and bake it for much longer. But with these ones, because I wanted kind of that slight ivory tinge on my eggs, I decided to just go with the same temperature that I always go with. I used to bake my macarons at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That just was not working out for me. I was not getting even baking and even feet on my macarons, so I actually brought it all the way down now to about 310 degrees Fahrenheit, and I bake for around 17 minutes. But don't get too hung up on baking times and baking temperatures with macarons. You really have to test out your own personal oven. That's what I've really learned over the years. I made this super easy dark chocolate ganache using a 2-to-1 ratio of dark chocolate and heavy whipping cream. I add a little bit of butter sometimes, but you really don't have to. And then I'm piping it by swirling it back and forth, so on the edge of the egg we get that nice little pattern. Moving along to our lemon macarons, you can see that some of them turned out flatter than others, so I'm obviously going to put the nicer side on top and then the ones that are just slightly too bumpy for my liking on the bottom. And I just put a little bit of yellow airbrush, really hitting it on the edges. Now we're taking some lemonade buttercream to make this lemonade buttercream. It was really easy. I made some Italian meringue buttercream and then I added a little bit of lemonade flavoring to it, but you could do this with lemon zest as well or lemon juice, whatever you would like. I just decided to not go with a curd this time. I just decided to go with straight buttercream. And again, I'm using that same kind of zigzag pattern so that you get that nice pattern on the side when you look at it. Now it's time to paint our macarons. I'm using an edible paint today instead of food colorant, but if all you have is food colorant, you can use that mixed with a little bit of vodka. And then I'm just going in and I'm doing segments here and really using a nice thin brush. And when I'm doing the kind of shading or whatever in the center of the segments, I'm really using a very light hand and always starting at the center there. You can store your fully painted macarons after they're completely dry in the freezer if you want to keep them for up to about 2 to 3 months. In my particular freezer, I still find at 2 months, they're still very good quality. You just have to let them thaw for about 30 to 45 minutes in their sealed container so you don't get that condensation on top. Now let's get into the pricing of these macarons. So for a custom order only, they would be $3 each Canadian, and for the lemons, they'd be $3.25 for the round ones and $3.50 for the lemon-shaped ones each. But of course, there would be a minimum implemented. So what I mean by a minimum is your bakery might have a minimum of $200 spend, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to be a minimum number of macarons. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the video. I am so into this dinosaur cake, and in fact, I'm going to this little dinosaur fun event thing with my kids today, so I'm feeling inspired by looking at this. And if you want to be the next featured subscriber submission of the video, then please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either tag me in a photo or send me a photo. Any and all dessert levels are welcome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!